Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show. Then I want to start with a question. Have you guys ever heard of the term reactive abuse or reactive anger? A lot of times it is talked about when we're talking about narcissistic abuse. But I've gotten emails from you asking me to clarify because it's a new term, because you're confused, so I am clarifying. In today's video, I'm going to break down reactive anger or reactive abuse, passive-aggressive anger, and healthy anger. So before we get started, if you happen to be new to this channel, please introduce yourself in the comments, say hello, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I roll out new stuff, which is every Tuesday and every Thursday, because I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. And if you are new here, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, which you can get at boundarybossbook.com. I want to say thank you for all of your activity, your questions, your comments. You know that I read them all, and I love to highlight them. So this is from Astralina2773 under the episode Dread Family Gatherings, Boundary Tips for More Peace and Less Stress. And they say, great tips, Terri. I'm just choosing to opt out this year. My family is too much and they drain me, and I'm protecting my energy. I will love them from afar. I think that is a delicious plan. Thank you so much for taking the time to drop a comment. I really do appreciate it. All right, let's move on into today's episode. So the topic is anger and the topic is abuse. And I think that there's a lot of confusion around what is what. So let's start with reactive anger or reactive abuse. Now, from a therapeutic standpoint, we don't really call this phenomenon reactive abuse because it is victim blaming and it is inaccurate. Because what ends up happening is if you're in an abusive situation, let's just say with a narcissist, they will provoke you until you hit a tipping point and you scream back, you throw something, you do something that is reactive to the amount that they've been heaping on you. And now they take control of the narrative and you're the abusive one. Everything they've done before that, in their mind, it erases it. And the way that they grab a hold of the narrative is they make it be like, you're crazy, you're doing all of this. And I've heard a lot with my clients who've been in abusive relationships with narcissists that it'll be, it's always like late at night when you have an important thing to do the next day. They're picking some crazy brawl with you that has nothing to do with nothing. And then you end up getting so upset and so mad, scream something back, do something that would be considered explosive anger. And they turn the narrative around and then they roll over and go to sleep and you're up all night, seething, ruminating, feeling bad, right? If you're still sort of in the clutches of someone's abuse and their narrative of what's happening. So when people say reactive abuse or reactive anger, that's what they're talking about. But when you're in an abusive situation and you're the person being abused, what we call it from a therapeutic standpoint is self-defense, right? You're defending yourself against the abuse. Because suddenly, if we get into a narrative where we're sort of talking about mutual abuse, that completely lets the actual abuser off the hook. And here's the thing, you guys. If you're in this situation, you know what I'm going to say. First of all, don't do anything quickly. Your safety is the most important. Always the most important. I will drop a link. I created an episode for you of how to leave an abusive relationship safely, which is what, if you're going to leave, is the only way to do it. Don't reveal your hand. Don't threaten your abuser that you're going to leave, right? Keep all of the details close to the chest. Enroll other helpers, other people who you love, who care about you, who, even if they don't know about the situation, you can't be in secrecy if you're in an abusive situation. But I wanted to talk about this because when you're under the control of an abuser, it's really easy to get sucked into their narrative. It's a very stealthy manipulation technique to provoke you to express reactive anger. be aware if this is happening for you. And again, figuring out how to extricate yourself from that situation, even if it seems complicated. Because unless that abuser is going to get help with you, or you're going to get help, it's probably not going to change. But a lot of times it gets worse. So that's the thing that we don't want to happen. For a lot of people, abuse escalates when the person is under stress or loses their job or whatever happens, and they're taking it out on you. So that is reactive anger or reactive abuse, or what we actually call self-defense. Now let's look at passive-aggressive anger, because this seems like it's connected, and in some dynamic way, there are similarities, but this is much more common. And with passive-aggressive anger, you're not talking about abuse. You're talking about people who can't express themselves directly, who are not in touch enough with their anger. A lot of times with passive-aggressive anger, it's very threatening to the person who's feeling angry. And I was definitely one of those people. And I also know I was not abusive. But in my 20s, I was so threatened by my own anger. I was terrified of anybody else's anger. Forget it. Nobody could be angry. I literally remember telling my college boyfriend, who I went out with for many years, like, anger could be a deal breaker for me. And he came from a pretty healthy family system. And he was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me I can literally never be angry in this relationship? And I was like, yeah, kind of. I think that's what I'm saying. He was like, dude, I do not know that I can promise that I can never be angry. It seems very unnatural. I mean, and he wasn't an angry person to begin with, but I was so phobic of anger because of the family system I was raised in. Sometimes, or you might think, oh, that means it was a very angry system. No, it was a very shut down system. So anger was a forbidden emotion in my family system. So I never had any good role models of anyone showing me how to healthily express anger. So passive-aggressive anger is when you are disavowing your own anger in some way, but you're doing something that's going to provoke the other person to be angry and to feel your anger and their own anger, right? So this is a really complex psychological, vibrational, energetic thing that's actually happening, where we see this a lot with lateness. So if you're an early person and your partner is a late person, you might feel this, where your person knows that being late or making you late is undoubtedly going to provoke an angry, frustrated, irritated response in you. So what's really happening is that whatever anger they have at you that they're afraid to express, they are inspiring you and sort of forcing you to express it by disavowing it and then doing something to piss you off. Does that sound complicated enough? I know it sounds it, but I have to say, I lived it. I actually lived it with my husband, with lateness around anger. And it took so long for me, and I was a therapist by that point. And I was like, wait, what's going on? So he's making me late because he doesn't want to be mad at me. It's too threatening. If you know my backstory, I married a widower with 3 teenage sons, and he was so happy to have been found in Elizabeth, New Jersey by me, that he didn't want anything to ruin the relationship. And I think it was just too threatening because he'd had too many bad experiences of women coming in, seeing like it was a big package deal that they didn't want to deal with, and then leaving, So whatever his reasons were, because my therapist said, does Vic ever get mad at you? And I was like, no, not really. And she's like, well, P.S., you're a therapist. You realize that's pretty unlikely, that it's possible that there's nothing you do that irritates him or angers him, right? And I was like, you're probably right. So I finally had a conversation with him. I did a whole experiment where we were going to a wedding, and if you've heard this story before, just bear with me, I'll make it quick. Once I understood passive-aggressive anger and the lateness thing, I knew I was too stringent about time as well. So I had a disordered relationship to time, and so did he. He was late. I needed to be super early was one of those people. So it was like a perfect shitstorm to become an explosive issue between us. So we were going to a wedding that was, I don't know, 90 minutes away from the house. And I'm ready an hour before we're leaving. I'm literally dressed, having a cup of tea, gonna meditate. And 1 hour before we're supposed to be in the car leaving, he's like, I'm gonna jump out quick and go to Home Depot. I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure you'll be back and ready to leave in an hour. But I didn't say that because I had committed to my therapist that I wasn't gonna say squat about it, not talking about it. I was gonna do this experiment. So, of course, he comes back right at the time we're supposed to be in the car leaving, and he's got wood on the top of the car. So we've got to take the wood off the car, still take a shower, still put on his tux, still, do all the things. So he comes in, and I'm still not mad. I just decided I don't even give a shit if I miss the friggin' wedding. Like, I'm not doing this dance with him anymore. I'm not. So he comes in, he's like, I got behind someone, they were going really slow, blah, blah, blah. I was like, hey, babe, don't worry about it. Got in the shower. We still have plenty of time. Everything is ready for you upstairs. Just go, 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 go. He's still talking and giving excuses. And I'm not even acting like I'm mad, but it's like he's so used to me being mad. He's like caught in like the past, continuing to justify why he was late. I was like, hey, just get in the shower. So anyway, we leave. And of course, we end up making it on time. But as we're driving, I float the idea of what my therapist thought about the lateness experience. And I said, because when you're making us late, making me late, the way that I feel, I'm so angry, like I'm out of control angry in a way that doesn't just feel like my own, it feels amplified, like something else is happening. Because my therapist had said to me, I said, why is that? That's so weird. And she said, because you're feeling your anger and his disavowed anger. You're feeling both. I was like, oh my God, I do not want to feel both. I barely want to feel my own. And so in the first one, I said to Vic, hey, this is what Bev thinks is happening. He was like, I don't know. And he was very therapized and open to therapy, but he was sort of like, well, I'm not sure about that. And I said to him, listen, either way, what I'm saying to you is we have a great relationship. I'm not fighting with you about time for the rest of our lives. I'm not interested in having silent car rides because I'm all pissy and withdrawn and anger. Like, it's so boring. I don't want to do it. So I can barely handle my own anger. You're going to have to handle your own anger. So let's just figure out how to not have this conflict about time. And we were able to work it out through being aware and giving each other permission to support each other. Like if I started spinning out about time, he could support me and say, babe, we have just the right amount of time. Don't worry. And if we did, right? And then I would support him if he would say he was leaving for Home Depot 1 hour before we're in the car. I would say, babe, do you actually have time to do that? And he would be like, no, I really don't. I'm like, okay. So we found our way to the middle of that. But if she hadn't explained to me what passive aggressive anger actually is, I don't know that we would have gotten to the bottom of it, because it just feels, if you've been on the receiving end of this, how deliberate does it feel when someone is doing this? I look at lateness as something because it's so common. Like the number of thousands of clients I've had over the many years, how many of them fight about time with their partner or with a sibling? Because I could fight about time with anybody who was late. I had literally no tolerance. It would be so judgmental and so mean and so pissed off about it. But I had to look at that, my own disordered relationship to time. Anyway, longest way around the barn to explain passive aggressive anger, because that was another question that I got. People trying to understand what is happening with passive aggressive anger. Let me know if I did a good enough job. Do you understand? And in the guide, terricole.com/guide, I will put like an official definition of passive aggressive anger. So if this story didn't illustrate it for you, then hopefully that will. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was healthy anger, because I know I'm not the only person who was raised in a family system who had a disordered relationship to anger. Right? Mine happened to be disordered in the way of nobody was allowed to be angry, right? But yours might have been disordered in some different way. Maybe everyone was angry all the time, or maybe people were quick to get enraged about things, or maybe they held it in and were sarcastic and expressed themselves in a passive-aggressive way. It's not just about making you late, right? You can have smaller ways of passively aggressively expressing anger with sarcasm. Right? That's just one way. It's if we are not being direct about our feelings of anger, but we're expressing them because they got to come out, that's a passive-aggressive expression of anger. Because here's the thing. Feelings don't just go away because they're inconvenient. We don't like them. Your body doesn't care. Your mind doesn't care. Your emotional self doesn't care. They're still there. And as I love to say, according to me, we can either talk it out or act it out. But we do not have the power as human beings to make it disappear, because that's just not the way it works. So healthy anger. About 5 minutes ago, I said I was going to get to that. I'm getting to it now. So what is healthy anger? It means you have the ability to tell someone when you're pissed off, when you don't like their tone of voice, when you didn't appreciate the action that they took in the moment. And I think that for many of us, if you were not allowed to be angry, as I wasn't in my growing up life, we find all these ways around it. So you might turn the anger inward. It could become depression. It could become, for me, it was sadness and upsetness, because those were acceptable emotions. I was allowed to be upset. I was allowed to cry. I was allowed to be sad instead of anger. But here's the thing. It isn't satisfying. Because if I'm saying, well, I was really upset about what happened, but if what I felt was I was really pissed off about what happened, they're not the same thing. And so you're still not scratching that itch. There's still not that satisfaction of being accurately and succinctly known or understood, which is why we can't ignore our anger, because then it'll get a hold of us, or it becomes other things. It starts to show up in your body, autoimmune disorders. We shove it down long enough. It's really not good for our physical wellness. Super stressful when we deny our anger, or we just suck it up and continually take one for the team or take one for the relationship, so to speak. So I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are about reactive anger, passive-aggressive anger, and healthy anger. Do you struggle with your own anger? Do you ever have issues with any of these things that we talked about in this episode? And hey, if you think this episode could help someone in your life, please share it with them. And one last time, if you are in a dangerous situation with a violent/abusive person, even if they're not physically violent, but they're emotionally violent or verbally abusive to you, I want you to slow it all down. Please go watch the video that I made for you. And there's also going to be a link for resources for you to safely leave an abusive relationship. Don't do anything to put yourself in danger, because your safety is my top, most important thing. I hope that this added value to your life. And as always, take care of you.